Legacy of a King, a Legacy series novel by Charlene Sponsel. Chapter 7, Harvest Celebration. First day of fall, 447. What do you mean? As lady of my house, you are going to host the Westfall Harvest Festival here in 2 weeks. 2 weeks? It cannot interfere with Kesma's celebrations. Mia came in to check on me, hearing Sittac's heavy footsteps echo down the corridor. Did you get in trouble? Definitely. I need to speak with the seamstress and cook before we go shopping, and I'm going to need someone to help me plan a ball. Who? I hardly know. Kesma was too busy with her upcoming entitlement ceremony, where she would inherit the title of Marchioness of Aquion. Her unification to Eosin, Duke of Envasil, would follow it. Talise still wouldn't venture out of the Langi, and insisted we host instead. Belia was nearing the end of her second pregnancy. Despite that, she and Sittac were ruling, while Tally kept a close eye on current events and stepped in when necessary. He drew strength from his children and found immense joy in his grandson Willick. I ducked into my dressing room with the box and sat on the floor to open it. Gems decorated the red velvet cover. I lifted it out but found nothing beneath, so I opened the book. Inside the cover was a note. The night before she died, she wore a white silk nightgown. It was the last thing we saw her wear. She hadn't the strength to change. Losing her transformed us. She knew it would, and that you would replace the warmth we lost. You gave it to us, reserving nothing for yourself. It's disappearing from you as quickly as she is fading. Her voice, memories of good times. We can't lose it again. The simple phrase you used to garner courage, "Good night, Mother," created a bond that can't be unmade. Whatever you need of us, we're here. Make us your home, and we will protect you from the dark of night, the hollow stairs, and the unshed tears for women who cannot be replaced. Mothers. Speechless, I thumbed through the pages, finding pressed Westfall flowers and leaves. In the margins were pictures and uplifting phrases. In the back was a forlorn drawing of me looking out a castle window. Before heading downstairs, I stopped by Kesma's, thanking her for her kind words and asking her for any tips she could think of for planning the festival. Start at the calligraphers, so notices go out today. Do you think people will really come? It is hosted by Sittac Major. You should plan on everyone in Majorca. You may not believe this, but he is quite popular. No, I didn't believe it, but I planned for it anyhow. I ordered the proper costumes from the seamstress, who promised it would be done despite the timetable. The cook wasn't thrilled about planning dishes she'd never heard of, but said, given my position, she was bound to need to learn them eventually. The following weeks flew by, and I never ran out of things to oversee. My father and brother said they couldn't afford to attend the festival and Kesma's ceremonies, but displaced West Foresters arrived from all the neighboring titleships. As guests arrived, Sittac welcomed them in rare form, explaining who were eligible candidates and how voting would be completed. At midday, after the votes had been tallied, vibrant costumes crowded the courtyard to hear the announcement of our festival king and queen. Sittac stood on a stage built for the skit, where performers of every kind had entertained us all morning. He thanked everyone for coming to celebrate with his ward, then he read the winners. The chosen king was the head of the Weavers' Guild of Onioma's son. The chosen queen was me. I wasn't supposed to be entered, I said to Sittac under my breath. The people chose. He set his jaw, and Stiver's son and I were led from the stage to don our costumes. My hair was let down and pinned so it framed my face. Then we were taken back to greet our subjects. It wasn't like home, where I would have been among friends. In a booming city like Langi, we blended in with the adults, making it less fun, and I soon lost my king. I turned, searching for him in a sea of strangers, panic rising in my throat as I avoided being splashed by those playing games nearby. I'd never been on my own, and I'd never wished so much that my guard had accompanied me. "My lady, may I be of assistance?" asked a familiar voice from behind me. Water dripped from spiky wet hair onto his white tunic, which made it stick to his dark skin and hard muscle formed by sword play, which I loved to watch. "My king," I curtsied. "Not today." "What have you been doing?" "Playing drip, drip, drop with Cam and Kesma," he said as another victim was drenched and she screamed, running after the culprit. "Playing?" A commoner's game, which is how he was dressed, but that game was particularly undignified. The skit is about to begin. Join me? He could have my company any time. Wouldn't you rather find someone new? I thought I had. What a pleasant surprise it was you. Telly lifted my hand and kissed my fingers. Embarrassed, I sucked in my lips, but it didn't wipe away the smile. He led me to seats in the back as the skit began, the comedy of a young entitled who promised to unite with the first woman who made him laugh caused uproarious laughter through the crowd. But when I looked to share it with Telly, despite the corners of his mouth turning up slightly, his eyes still held sadness. Had Varin made him laugh? Eventually, my harvest king found me to fulfill our duties, hosting the ball by taking to the floor for the first dance. Kesma's betrothed being absent, she was free to dance with whomever she chose. Cam, too, enjoyed flirting and dancing with anyone not his sister. Tilly remained on the sidelines despite a crowd of women waiting to be asked. They seemed like those from the skit, but he gave none of them the faintest smile. At sunset, we exchanged gifts. I had been sewing Cam and Kesma's every spare minute, but they were nothing compared to the journal they gave me, and I presented them wrapped in butcher paper the cook gave me, not decadent boxes. Cam tore his open and flipped over the suede and leather. It's a satchel to keep all the items you collect everywhere you go. I can see that, but I can't find the maker's mark. I made it. You? I nodded, wishing I'd bought them as Sittac had offered. It's perfect, he said, slinging it across his chest. Kesma unwrapped hers with care. Mine, too? She draped the evergreen shawl around her, examining the gold embroidery of sprigs and cones. This is beautiful, Lili. I thought it could remind you of home. Maybe you'll visit more often? We placed our candles in our gourds and floated them down the river. Goodbye, childhood. Iliota, Telly said behind me, putting a fine point on my commiseration, a box in his hand. I opened it, and music played. Not any song, but the one my mother had sang to me. How did you know? I pay attention. You hum it to comfort yourself, he said in response to my puzzlement. I hadn't realized I did that, and I only remembered part of the tune. Thank you. This is so thoughtful. May I escort you home? To us, elder? Of course not, stupid. Please do. I have something for you as well. I left it, unsure he would attend, or if it would be appreciated. We walked in silence to my drawing room, where he remained in the hall while I fetched his gift. Telly gently unfolded the paper and pulled out the lightweight brocade frock coat. Try it on? Fitted with long sleeves, much could be wrong, and I held my breath. He shrugged it over his shoulders. A perfect fit. I got your measurements from the seamstress. He picked up the metal arrow I attached to a chain at the pocket. It was the token in your loaf at the news cycle celebration. I knew the white would be striking. Thank you, Iliota. I nodded as he backed away and entered his quarters. At the staircase down the hall was Sittac's dark shadow. He came forward until it fell on me. About time. If I do not see measurable progress soon, you will find yourself in an uncomfortable position.